Hey everybody, welcome back to Art by Galen. I'm Galen Eilenfeld. Last week we covered the topic of drawing the head with the Reilly method from the front view. And this week we're going to cover the same method but from a 3/4 view. With this you'll be able to draw the head from basically any angle but still be able to use the Reilly method. If you haven't watched the previous Reilly method tutorial, I recommend watching it right now to familiarize yourself with it because there are quite a few steps to it. It starts off the same way as the front view, and that's just with a basic circle. But instead of, doing the front view how we would cut it off at the sides, to make the sides of the head, we need to cut it off thinking in 3 dimensions. So if I want the head to be facing more this way and slightly downward, I know that I need to cut off a section over here. And think of it like taking a slice off of a tennis ball or something like that. From here we establish the angle of face by drawing a line through the center of this oval. And that will ultimately give us the direction that the eyes are facing. Now, if we imagine that that line continues across the front of that sphere, we get a curved line about like so. Yeah. And that gives us the top of the eye line. If we do that same curve, but from the top of the circle up here, that gives us a rough hairline. If we do another one this same distance, but down, that gives us the bottom of the nose line. We want to try to mimic that curve pretty closely. And then again, one more time for the bottom of the chin. Knowing how to do the Loomis head will help you quite a bit with drawing this 3/4 view at first until we start doing the, all the little guidelines and everything. But basically we're going to take from the side here and pull that down to the bottom of the chin and take the corner of the chin and pull it up to kind of simulate the shape of the jaw. And if you were doing the Loomis head, you would take the other corner of the chin and pull it up roughly about like so, and then you would be building your face. And I'll put that line in, but I'm going to do it really faint because I don't want it to get confused with a lot of the other stuff we're going to be doing. From here we need to establish roughly where the center of the face is. And we do that by drawing a vertical line that sort of follows the curvature of the face. It doesn't need an extreme curve, just a slight one depending on the shape of the character's face that you're drawing. Now, just as with last time, we're breaking this entire section up into thirds. And we've got a third here, a third here, and so each of these smaller sections should be roughly equal. If we further break this center section into thirds, drawing a line across the top mark will give us the bottom of the eye line. And the next step would be to establish the width of the nose. And so we go roughly equal distant on each side of that center line and pull it down to the bottom of the nose line. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky because you have to deal with the nose in 3 dimensions instead of a front-on shot like with earlier. And so here I like to start right about this area, just above the bottom of the eye line where the top of the bridge of the nose would sit. Right at that little indentation that happens before the brow starts coming forward. So you choose where that's going to be, and you have to think in dimension here. Like it's not going to be right in the center, and it's not going to come down like this because the nose is not facing directly out at you. It's going to be more off to the side, and the bridge of the nose is going to come down more at an angle like this because it's facing that way in 3D space. So once you've got that, you can even put little marks here where the bridge would come up towards the brow. But from here we'll do the little curve at the bottom of the nose, and that establishes where the ball of the nose is. Now on the sides of that we can draw another curve that comes down to the bottom of the nose line, and then another one here. And the main thing is you want to pull them down to these little points that show the width of the nose. And that gives you the sides of the nose where the nostrils would be. And depending on the angle, the nostril that's in the back may be partially or completely hidden, depending on how extreme that angle is or the shape of that person's nose. Now from here, we would go from the side of the nose and pull a line up. And that gives you that plane of the side of the nose that comes up inside just off of where the tear duct in the eye would be. And we'll give ourselves another line underneath just to finish shaping out the bottom of the nose. Now from here, earlier we marked this top section into thirds. If we use the bottom mark and then divide this lower section into thirds, using from here to here and drawing, if you're looking at it from the front, it would be more of a circle. So here it's going to be more of an oval because it's not a perfect front view. And that gives you sort of that muzzle area of the mouth. And we're also going to do the second circular shape going from the bottom of the chin up to the intersection of where this line, the width of the nose, intersects with this line here, the bottom of the eye. That gives you these muscles that flex when you smile, your cheeks. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, thinking in 3D space. It's not going to come all the way out here like this. It's going to be hidden back behind some of that. And depending on how much flesh that person has, you might have very thin and narrow cheeks like this, or you could have some fairly, fleshy cheeks. But we'll go back to this more neutral shape. Now that we have the muzzle circle and the cheek circle, we'll do one more little oval for the chin. It's going to start at the bottom of the chin and it's going to overlap that muzzle circle just a little bit. And this will vary depending on the shape of that person's chin. And then from there, using this top third line, we can sketch in where roughly the line of the mouth will be. And I'm going to draw this just in kind of a neutral position. I'm not going to make any crazy expressions or anything. And then from here we can draw in the bottom lip and the top lip. Again, thinking in 3D space, we're not centering it on that center line. And then you also have this little oval shape that ties that top of the lip into the bottom of the nose, that little dimple that happens in the connection. I don't know the actual name of that, but that is where it is. From here, we have a line that goes from from here we have a line that goes from the corner of the mouth up to the side of the head, to the side of where the head begins to flatten out. And that gives us that lower curvature of the cheeks. And we'll do that on this other side as well. And just do your best to think in 3D space. It's not going to be perfectly mirrored on both sides when you're working with 3/4 views or any view that's not perfectly straight on. From here we'll do the curve that starts from here at the corner of the mouth. It goes inward toward the nose and then curves really quickly out towards this top of the eye line here. And this establishes the top of the ear. And we'll do it again on the other side, keeping in mind three-dimensional space and not so instead of branching it out this way, it actually comes up and then curves back around the side of the head, because at this angle you're not going to see the other ear. And then we also have a line from the top of the ear down to the side of the cheek that further helps define this side plane of the face. And it's probably really faint on that other side, but we won't even worry about it at this angle. And then here we can sketch in the ears. The top of the ears generally at the top of the brow line, bottom of the ear averages around the bottom of the nose line. And so from here we can just put in a rough ear shape. I made a mistake here. I should have put the ear at the back of the jawline, so this placement is incorrect, but I do correct it later on in the video. A rough shape of the ears. The next step will be to put in the rough brow line, and if we take this top section here and divide it into quarters and then do a very slight arc across here from this temple mark to this temple mark, that'll give you the rough curvature of the forehead as well as the high point of the brow. Like if we lift our brows up, that's generally where that will fall on. And then the eyes, will fall, like the tear duct will fall at this point here. The outside of the eye will generally be equal to the width of the nose. And this is just average. I mean, everybody's going to be a little bit different. But anyway, so from this point to about the same point on the other side, we'll curve upward and then stretch it across to give us the arc of the top of our eyes. And then at this point where the width of the nose intersects with the bottom of the eye line, that's where the tear duct will be. And if we pull a line up from that, that gives us the completed top of the eye shape. And so from there you can finish off the shape of your eye, and you can add you could add in your your irises and pupils if you wanted to. Okay, the next step we want to do is we want to establish the temples of the head. And that's basically if we come up here at the top of this area where we've sliced off the side of the head and where it meets with that hairline, if we draw a line that curves down from there to the side of the eye, that gives us that flat portion on the side of the head as well as the temple area here. And you may see a little bit of that on this side, but not very much. And then from there we can draw a line from the tear duct, these points here, and curve those upward to where that intersects with the temple line. And that gives you not the actual brow line, but it gives you a shape that defines these areas here, which generally will protrude. They're underneath the eyebrows themselves, but they do catch light a lot of the time. The next step would be to define the forehead a little bit. There's an oval shape that fits in. If you draw a large oval from this bottom of the eye line up to the top of the forehead, and that gives you that protrusion of the skull that sometimes is visible on a person's face. The next step, if you wanted to, would be to draw in the rough eye sockets, and that you can use to define the bags of the eyes as well as the eyelids, the shape of the eyelids, how everything would contour. I understand that this is kind of an advanced tutorial. I personally had a lot of trouble trying to find any sort of tutorial that showed a 3/4 view of the Reilly method. So I wanted to try to develop that and put it out there. That way, people could have it as a reference. I'm going to pop this over into time lapse, and I'm going to further, develop this face just to show what can be created without reference once you know this method well enough. But anyway, I'll see you at the end of that. Okay, so this is very rough, and the shading is not anywhere near perfect. It gives you an idea how you can use this underlying structure to build upon and create a realistic human face. I really hope that it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope it works out for you. I do appreciate you hanging out until the end and watching it. And let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed the technique, if it worked for you. If it didn't, let me know what problems you had. And if I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm doing something maybe the hard way, let me know if there's an easier way to do it. I'd love to hear any of that from you. Be sure to check out my interview series called Ask an Artist, where I conduct interviews between myself and a dozen other artists, and we all answer questions that are topics that artists generally have to deal with, and we give various perspectives on those topics. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to see more of this kind of content and you haven't subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care.